Good morning, students. Welcome back to our English class. In my last video, I have introduced you to poem number 2 from Treasure Trove. The name of the poem is The Cold Within, written by James Patrick Kinney. In my last video also, I have given you a background in brief about the poem and also have briefed a little bit about our poet James Patrick Kinney. Now, as I had started with the explanation of the stanzas, I had explained to you till the second stanza. Now, let's give a quick brush up before I proceed with my explanation of the following stanzas. Now, over here, student, the poet James Patrick Kinney, without much meandering, without much delay, he has taken us to the situation, and the situation has happened by chance, where we find that 6 humans were caught in a difficult situation. Humans means he has referred or he has cited the humanity in general. That is why instead of referring to or calling them as people or man or woman, he has stated them as humans, means having the common attributes attributed with the common qualities by the Lord God. In the second stanza, we found that the woman who was among those 6 humans refused to share her stick of wood in the fire, if done so, could have contributed to strengthen the fire and save the lives of those 6 humans. But she refused to do so. She refrained from doing so when she saw a black, and this has shown his racial prejudice, means the discriminatory attitude of the woman. Now, coming to the next, students, the next man looking across the way saw one not of his church, and could not bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. Now, students, the next human is a man, and he could have contributed also to strengthen the fire by giving out his own stick of wood. But when he saw on the opposite side that there is a man sitting who did not belong to his own religious community, his narrow-mindedness triggered, and he became intolerant from the religious point of view, from the religious perspective, and immediately he refrained himself from contributing his birch of wood to enlighten or to strengthen the fire. Now, let's move to the next stanza. The third one sat in tattered clothes. Tattered means torn. The third one sat in tattered clothes. He gave his coat a hitch. Hitch means tighten, pulled closer. Why should his lock be put to use? To warm the idle rich? Now, here comes another man in turn, next in turn, who was wearing a tattered means torn clothes. This shows that the man is poor. This symbolizes that the man was poor, and the moment he saw that there was a rich man also among them, he tightened, pulled closer his coat out of jealousy. He thought that the rich people are lazy and always exploits the poor. So, why he should give away his own belonging in order to save the rich? Thus, he became bitterly envious and could not hold back his feelings, and he also refrained himself from contributing to strengthen the fire by giving away his stick of wood in the fire. Now, let's come to the next stanza. The rich man just sat back and thought of the wealth he had in store and how to keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. Shiftless over here means aimless. Now, the rich man, it is now the turn of the rich man, to which we can see that all these years the rich man was sitting over there, and he started to think that all these years, out of his consistent effort, he has stored wealth and resources, and now for that lazy, aimless poor, a poor man was there among those 6 men, and for that lazy, aimless poor, why should he fritter away the stick of wood? He had more than enough, still could not give away his prejudice of having stingy feelings for others, especially for poors. Thus, he could not share even a little bit of resource he had with him that day. So, he also again could not contribute to strengthen the fire, which perhaps, like, if he could have done, could have saved the lives of all the men over there, but he could not do so because of his stingy feelings. So, this is an act of miserliness. So, being a rich also, he could act so miserly, while in the stanza above it has been shown that the poor was jealous, and the economic disparity between the rich and poor has created a division among the men in this universe. So, time and again, students, you will find that this poem is an allegory. Allegory means having a double meaning, a superficial meaning and an underlying meaning. So, this is called allegory. As I have already told you that this poem is a parable, means having a universal moral effect, impact on us. That is why it is a parable, as well as an allegory, that is the superficial, there is a superficial meaning as well as an underlying meaning. So, with each of the men being projected over here, we can find each of the sins and the vices that human beings possess on this earth. Now, coming to the next stanza, student. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from his sight. For all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. So, now over here we are finding that there was a black man too. The fire was then almost seemed to be dying out. The black man saw this and thought that when he had to take that this is the time to take the revenge of all the sufferings he had faced because of the whites in this society. Maybe whatever resource he had with him had the potential to sustain the fire, but still he was blind to see that potential to save everyone's life. This is because he was thirsty. He was thirsty of revenge, anger, vengeance, and thus he thought to use his stick of wood to hurt the white men. So, this is a case of what to say. This is, I mean to say that this is a case of again vengeance and jealousy. Now, students, over here the next stanza says that the last man of this forlorn group did aught except for gain, giving only to those who gave was how he played the game. Now, this is the last man, students. The last man in the group was forlorn. Forlorn means sad, lonely, and he was actually the one who thought of profit and benefit. and he believed in give and take relationship. He also finally, or unfortunately we can say, got caught under the grip of conditional jealousy. He had no generosity, he showed no generosity, and finally what happened is that he only thought of giving his stick to those who gives him back something worthy. He lacked thus the broad-mindedness, and therefore he too refused to give up his log and save the dying men from the bitter cold. So, now what is happening, student? Now in the last stanza we find that the logs held tight in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They did not die from cold without, they died from the cold within. So ultimately in the last stanza, this is very, very important, students, where the poet is telling us that ultimately the fire died out because nobody has contributed a little bit of position, whatever they were having at that point of time, and nobody has contributed to strengthen that fire which could have saved those 6 humans' life. And that is why ultimately the fire has died out, and all the 6 men also died, froze to death, holding the sticks in their hand tightly. Now students, the stick of wood is thus the proof of human sins over here. That is the prejudice that limited them, restrained them to show tolerance, to show feeling, compassion, brotherhood for fellow humans. They did not die. See students, they did not die because of the they did not die from cold without, that is, they did not die because of the climatic cold condition, but they died from cold within, that is, they have died because from the cold within. That means they have died due to the lack of warmth they were having in their minds, in their thoughts, thus failed to reach out to others. They hold their prejudice, that is the stick, that is the sin, and they hold their prejudice stick, they hold their prejudice till the end tightly, and not only died physically but also morally. So, the logs of wood are metaphor for sin. Fire is the enlightenment. Fire is symbolic over here to show or to symbolize the enlightenment, that is, enlightenment to rise above our petty self-interest, giving or rising above the prejudice, that we human beings can become truly enlightened. So, if we can rise above our prejudice, we can become human beings in the truest sense by being truly enlightened. But cold within is a metaphor over here used by the poet. Cold within is a metaphor over here used by the poet, which shows that there was lack of warmth in the hearts of those 6